the inbound secret.
My name is Bryce, and I'm your host for The Inbound Secret, where we're talking with top performers and health experts and sales badasses alike about their strategies to optimize their well-being and performance. Once again, this is The Inbound Secret, and let's get rocking and rolling.
This is the inbound. This is the inbound. This is the inbound. The inbound. This is the inbound secret.
Welcome back to another episode of The Inbound Secret, y'all. I'm your host, Bryce, and today we've got not only a young entrepreneur, but he's the, what is it that you're called? The Swami of systems, I believe?
They called me the Swami of systems.
The Swami of systems. We got Trey Carmichael in the house. Good friend of mine. He's actually built our SOPs here recently and knocked out a bunch of recordings and systems. We've partnered on Limitless Expansion, Virtually Limitless, and a few others with our good friend Justine and a few other partners coming out, such as Spark Builder. Just so all of you can get acquainted, Trey, go ahead and give yourself a warm welcome.
Warm welcome. What's up, Trey? Glad you're here. That's what you wanted, right?
I mean, hey, that works. Introduce yourself to the guests.
Oh, man. Well, what I always like to say is I'm a crazy, passionate life changer that gives anyone and everyone the space they need to grow. And outside of that, I play outsource COO to impact-driven entrepreneurs.
Right on. So we're going to kind of just dive right on in. As a lot of the listeners here know, and Trey, you've listened to a few of the episodes, we don't really script these things. We kind of just let them evolve. So today will be an interesting one. We're going to go about half an hour, 45 minutes. Let's just kind of dive right on in. And I've got to ask the question that a lot of us are wondering. Why did you choose systems optimization and operations?
Because I got very, very tired of seeing people sell courses that would teach people how to build 10% of a system and then make them buy another course to learn the other 10% and then another course to learn the other 10%. Or you got to pay us a few $1,000s a month just to learn it. And I also own a marketing agency, and I got kind of tired of working with clients that didn't know what was going on or what they were doing or even what to do once we delivered them the leads that they paid us to deliver them. So that's kind of how I ended up in the systems and operations world. Is the majority of things in business I realized are just simple systems that you don't understand. And I'm tired of seeing people get taken advantage of over simple systems that they don't understand.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because one of the most prolific things that you've mentioned is that you've finally realized, and you've helped a lot of other people realize this, that multi-billion-dollar corporations, trillion-dollar corporations, are nothing more than a systemized process, some smoke and mirrors to make it seem fancy, and just repeatable processes and the organization of those systems and tools. Can you expand a little bit to the listeners here? Can you deconstruct, let's say, a hypothetical multi-billion-dollar corporation into like the 7 different towers or tiers that organization has?
Man, it's kind of like you read my mind, because I already talk about the 7 pillars of business, which is marketing, sales, fulfillment, retention, finance, human resources and company culture, and then finally legal, which hopefully you won't need that one, but you do want to make sure that you have it.
So out of those, let me ask you a kind of unorthodox question, because there's tons of people out there. Some people talk about, like we talk about the 4 pillars of growth, specifically for the marketing aspect, right? And we talk about the 5 C's of scale for market penetration and lead generation, client acquisition. Some of your competitors, if we want to call them that, talk about the 5 pillars of a business, or the 4 pillars of the business, or the 3 areas that you need your company to have. How did you narrow down and come to 7?
So it's actually kind of funny. Initially I had 4 pillars.
Okay.
When I was starting out, those were the 4 pillars that I focused on, which was marketing, sales, fulfillment, and retention. As the entrepreneur, as the new business owner, most of the time, those 4 pillars are all you're going to need. But then as I started working with more 7 figures and just higher level companies, I started realizing how important the finances, the human resources and the company culture, and then finally the legal aspects were to scale. Because when you're scaling, eventually you're going to piss somebody off, whether it's your fault or not.
As somebody who has had to use my legal team before, I cannot stress enough, everybody listening, if you don't have legal set up, get that shit tight. Okay. And I don't mean like just hire a team of bulldog attorneys. While that's helpful, I really mean focus on getting your contract tight, your SOPs tight that have legal infrastructure in them. So if you're not available, your team can reach out if needed. You've got resources and management. Get your legal tight. Now, there's a few tools that you've helped me come to realize that I could leverage that I wasn't leveraging properly. The most important one I want to talk to about today is SOPs. We've all heard about them. We've all talked about them. We've all fucking seen them. Most people listening to this, hell, including myself, have made them in the past, or they've just despised having to take what's in their brain and put it down for somebody else. That was a big bottleneck for me because I got to a large contractor base, got a large team, had a good customer base. But realistically, I got myself into a situation where, like, if I croaked, if I was out of commission, which did sort of kind of happen when I got COVID, even though I was still working, it was just much harder to do things. Energy levels like went -50 fast. If I didn't have those SOPs that I flew you up here to help me build out, we would have been kind of dead in the water for 2 or 3 weeks. So what is your advice other than flying you out, which is probably the best way I'd recommend any of you listeners do this, because it was in a week, we rebuilt like 50 fucking SOPs. We wrote new ones that we've never had. We integrated them into systems, have them online, have people shared to them, have access to all of them. But other than that, what's one way that you would say your audience today, the people listening to the show today, could kind of get out of that bottleneck, get out of that mental lock, that analysis paralysis of, oh, fuck, I've got to get these done, but I don't really know how to transfer what I know on paper? What would you say is the best way for somebody to be able to start building their SOPs today?
So the blunt answer that I know you probably didn't like and the audience probably doesn't like is stop being lazy. All you're doing is documenting the step-by-step process of how you do the damn thing so that you can actually scale your business. And there's a couple ways to do that. You can literally sit down, you can document step-by-step how you did it, or you can do the process. And while you're doing the process, record yourself talking, get that transcribed, and then send it to a virtual assistant to kind of pretty up and make it easier to look at. And then you have SOPs. And when you have SOPs, everybody knows what's going on. You have a actual system, you're going to be more confident. And when you're more confident, more people are going to buy it. There's so many benefits to having a solid system that you're just, in general, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not. The most common cycle, and I'm sure you see this with your clients as well, the most common cycle in the entrepreneur world is hustle, 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 hustle. Oh shit, I have a bunch of clients. I don't know how to scale. And now I don't have time to stop to figure it out. Document them now, no matter where you're at, so you can avoid the most common mistake that entrepreneurs make.
Now,
okay, rant over.
You're not wrong. Okay. You're not wrong. But I want to clarify one thing. It wasn't laziness that was preventing me from doing the SOPs. It was methodizing what I did. Right. And a lot of people listening to this may be in that same space where Yeah, you can carve out the time if you absolutely need to, but it's going to detract from something else that you've got to have somebody else do or you have to put off, right? That's its own battle and a whole nother discussion. But when you've got so many different variables on how you have done things or can do things, creating a singular method for that that's like linear is confusing here, right? So a lot of people listening to this don't be lazy. They're not. They're hustling, they're changing lives, they're making impact, okay? A lot of people listening here are also going to be in a circumstance where maybe they've already hit that point where they're like, fuck, I'm too busy to do this now, right? So what I'd really like to hear, and the way I solved this, just so everybody's listening knows, is I just flew Trey out. It was way easier to just have him document what I was doing when I was doing it and discuss the missing pieces than it was for me to try and go through this like minefield of, I don't know, you've all seen what is it? Pan's Labyrinth, right? Like think of that labyrinth in my brain full of stuff. Okay. Navigating that was okay. Well, there's 15 different ways that I could do this. Which way is the right way? Well, it depends on the circumstance. So getting that narrowed down was big for me. And for me, it was easier to just fly somebody out and have it done while I'm doing it than try and juggle in my own head. A lot of you listening to this probably have the same experience. So Trey, what I'm looking for here is other than the just do the damn thing, right? Because that's an ongoing conversation. While they're doing the damn thing, you've gone through this with not only me, but dozens of other entrepreneurs and business owners and basically anybody that has any purpose for intent these days. What has been the commonality that you see that when you're helping them, that one thing that's like, oh shit, it's easier than I thought it was. You've kind of flipped that light switch and now they're like, oh yeah, okay, we could do that. What's that one commonality that you would say for people listening that if they just think about for a second, can take that labyrinth and kind of just make it a straight road?
The commonality. Well, first of all, I do want to backtrack really quick. And I guess it's not laziness. That was the wrong word. It's lack of prioritization. And this is one of the other cycles that we see entrepreneurs going through is they prioritize their clients, they prioritize the business. But when it comes down to it, they don't prioritize the self-care, the SOPs, and the really foundational things. And when it comes down to it, believe it or not, an SOP really is self-care. You're taking so much anxiety off your plate once you have that documented. So laziness was the wrong word. It's a lack of prioritization. So can you ask me the last question one more time? Because I did want to make sure that I touched on it.
Yeah, simply put, for people that are in that area, analysis paralysis of trying to get what's in here on paper so that it can be replicated. A lot of the times the bottleneck comes from, it just seems like it's so much harder than it really is.
Yeah.
For me, the light switch that helped me see that was you being here. Cause I was like, oh, that's way easier. But when you talk about it, it kind of sounds like it's a mountain you've got to climb, not a hill you can drive over. So with you have working with so many entrepreneurs, business owners, executives, C-suite execs, that you've helped to do this exact process, right? What's the one thing that always seems to like line everything up for them? They go from, well, this just sounds like it's going to take far too much time and effort to, oh, okay. What would you say is one of those things that kind of just lines up? Because the people listening here are in a situation where they need SOPs. They may be an early adopter or they're already to a situation where like they desperately need SOPs, but they're more than likely stuck in that analysis paralysis side because it just sounds like too big of a task when you think about document everything you do. And there's so many variables in everything you do. Which one do you document?
Okay, so first of all, I want to make an analogy, and I'm pretty sure that we've had this conversation before, is how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
Exactly. So if you want to get all of your SOPs documented, then go back to those 7 pillars that we talked about: marketing, sales, fulfillment, retention, finance, human resources and company culture, and legal. List every single task that you do under each one of those pillars. And then pick one piece at a time. Document it. Run through that process that I mentioned before, where either you walk through the process and audibly state the steps that you're taking while you do the process, or just document exactly how you do it. But take it one piece at a time. Choose one task after breaking down the list, and then just choose one at a time, and then just keep going. Take one pillar a day if you have to until it's done. Once you get going, it's going to get progressively easier. The majority of things are not complicated. We've already said that. Like SOPs, like, to me, it feels like one of the most unspecial things ever, because all I do when somebody flies me out there is type down what you say. It's like, hey, do this process and tell me what you do while you do it. I'm doing the steps that you could do by yourself. Like,
so I want to touch on that for a second. Your last statement, I'm doing the steps that you can do by yourself. This is something that comes up a lot of the time in business. And I want to kind of play with this conversational topic for a second. If you boil it down, that's what every business on the planet does. A business is just the systematic approach to solving somebody else's problem they either don't want to solve, can't solve, or don't have time to solve. Digital marketing is no different. App development's no different. Building a house is no different. Given enough time, you could do those things yourself.
100%. The only thing I give them is like, I make it happen faster, and
Exactly.
there's gonna be some operating procedures and some things that they need documented that I'm probably already going to have, which is going to save them time.
Well, and that's why that's important, because far too many times people think that business needs to be something that somebody cannot do themselves. No. You think Stanley Steamers thinks you can't shampoo your own fucking carpet? No, they know you can. They just know you don't want to. They know it's going to be it's better for your time if they do it. And realistically, they probably have better equipment. But the end result's the same thing. Can you do it yourself? Yeah. Do you want to? Fuck no. Like with you, could I have spent the time and just fucking 100%. Grind through the painful methodology for me? Because I hate having to document things, right? Like I'm a data guy. I'm a more on the artsy delivery content creative side. I'm an analytical guy when it comes to like mapping things out. But do I like fucking writing down what I do? God, no. It's like pulling fucking no, it's not fun. It's like pulling teeth, right? So for me, yeah, I flew you out here. Yeah, a week, we got everything done. That would have taken me a month because I wouldn't have put that kind of dedication myself. So for everybody. So for
the reason I want to state that they could do it all by themselves is because I don't want somebody who maybe isn't to the point where they can afford me yet to think that they need to afford me. Like, we sell people, I believe in selling people their time, not selling people on the information. Like, I want to break that mindset of, oh no, I can't do it by myself. Like I want people to know that, hey, you can 100% do this yourself. It is a simple system. The only thing that I'm going to do is save you time if you hire me. Like, so do you want to learn it and come back to me when you want time? Or do you want to save your time right now?
Yeah, and I think that's an important lesson, because customers and business owners alike always have kind of the same kind of rule, right? I was just having a conversation with a prospective client yesterday where he's like, well, I'm not marketing and advertising right now. Well, he's doing organics, he's posting, he's getting clients from it. Yes, you are. The only difference is you're not using money to pay for it. You're using time. You're always going to have some kind of exchange or sale that occurs. It's either time or money or both. You choose how that event goes. So everybody listening, doing the steps that Trey has kind of brought up, I'm going to have him expand a little bit more on like tools and platforms that he uses to make it easy, because I want you guys to be able to take this lesson today. And by the end of today's episode, at least write one SOP. It could be how to do an SOP. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but that'll get you to a situation where like with my SOPs now, I could fuck off for a couple weeks and like the team still knows what to do. Right. I could never have done that before, even if I needed to. Right. It was always I had to put somebody in my place to be able to do that. And while to some extent I still do that because my other partner, Josh, he takes care of a lot of the stuff when I'm out of town. But now there's like documentation. So he doesn't have to call me. He doesn't have to email me. He doesn't have to text me. It just adds kind of it's like an employee handbook, but for the whole business. Right. That's what it gave us. So with me, we used tools that I already had, right? For the business owners, entrepreneurs, and sales professionals listening, what systems or tools would you recommend they use to keep it organized? I'm not talking about just writing it. I'm talking about where can they place these SOPs to keep it organized that's going to be the most affordable and the most effective for them.
So as far as most affordable and most effective, like, you don't need anything special to store your SOPs. Like on a foundational level, all you really need is a Google Drive with everything organized into the folders, documents for each task. And then you can even make little folders and duplicate copies of the tasks that the people that you're assigning them to have to do, and then label that folder with their name. Now it's organized. You can also get a Trello if you haven't heard of that, and you can link the Trello boards to your SOPs so that whenever you're communicating, you can put cards on a board, move them around. Now you're communicating easier, and you can even move the SOP into a Trello board. For example, I have a Trello board for all of my podcast interviews. Whenever I do a podcast interview, when I'm done with it, the link to that interview goes on that Trello board. My VA gets a notification. They grab that link from the Trello board, they go grab the file, they edit it, they put the intro and outro on it, they upload it to the actual podcast, they go into the repurposing software, and they repurpose the snippets, they schedule those out, and they move the card down to the different steps as they're doing it. So it comes in as interview recorded, interview posted to podcast, content being created, interview complete. And then now you have an organized, like step by step, you're getting notifications when people are working, you know when people aren't working, you have it all stored in one place. And then you can go back to Google Drive and have your instruction manuals for everything else as well.
Perfect. So you touched on a few different tools here that I don't want to skip over. We use Trello internally. We use a few different other tools that not only have you brought to our attention, such as repurpose.io, but for those listening, I don't want to skip over those. So can you give just like a brief explanation of what Trello is and why you should use it, what repurpose.io is and why you should use it? We already know Google Drive. I'm just going to skip over that one. I assume everybody listening already knows what Google Drive is. Okay. And if you don't, fucking Google it. Okay. You're adults.
If they don't know what Google Drive is, do they know what Google is though, bro?
I hope so. According to Google, they own like 90% of the searches. So
Awesome. So basically Trello is the project manager. That's where you can have different lists. You can have different steps in like a SOP pipeline, I guess. That's where you can have a lot of communication, because one of the things that I really like with clients or communicating with like the people on my team is on the different cards, you can have different conversations so that each conversation is organized. And then there's one other tool that we use for communication, which is Slack, that you can incorporate into your SOPs as well. And then repurpose.io, it allows you to syndicate content. As an example, I have a system set up right now where whenever the podcast episode gets uploaded to the podcast, it automatically gets syndicated to YouTube. And then they can go in, and then my virtual assistant can go into repurpose.io, and they can select snippets and they can schedule those out, and they can make that happen with very few steps and only a couple of softwares. And then of course, you document that stuff into your processes as well, so that you, your team, or anybody can go in there and create snippets, create content, and you all have access to that. And then one other bonus that I'm going to throw in here is I freaking love Lead Carrot. If you get processes documented and you get like your sales process documented, your scripts tight, like what messages go out when, and you can literally create a pipeline with all the different steps and have your lead come in here and then have them get moved into the next step. And then whenever they get moved into that step, it triggers a sequence. Whenever they reply, it moves to a different step, which will trigger a sequence. Or you can have an inbound pipeline that when it comes in, you trigger your welcome sequence. When they grab your lead magnet, it triggers that sequence. Whenever they book a call, it automatically gets zapped onto your pipeline. And if you want, you can trigger a sequence there. Once you're off the call, you can create different steps so that you can move the call, so that you can move their card to forward them different information. And that's kind of the main tools that I use to keep everything organized, is literally Trello for communication, Slack for communication, repurpose to syndicate content out, and then Lead Carrot to communicate with everybody that engages with that content for the most part. Well, obviously once they opt in.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's cold outreach is probably a whole different animal there for you. Now, there's a few things that you mentioned that I want to touch on. We're gonna kind of pivot this conversation. We've beat up SOPs, right? Like you've come in, just knocked it out of the park there. Everybody listening, I hope you took notes. If not, just listen again. You're welcome to. Now, as far as systemization goes, because you specialize in operations, right? Now, the operations setting, I've had you do a ton of work to make sure that some things are tied up and tidied up for us. Tell us a little bit about, one, why Lead Carrot's your preferred method. And then two, when you're talking with an entrepreneur, a business owner, somebody who needs operational help, right? What are kind of the top 3 key points that you're looking for to be able to distinguish where they are? Because people listening to this may have an aha moment, right? They may be listening to this call and be like, oh shit, that's me. I should get on the ball, right? So first off, Lead Carrot, little deep dive into why you prefer that one over, say, HubSpot or ActiveCampaign, etc. Why Lead Carrot? And don't just tell us because you like Ross. We all like Ross. I'm talking about the system itself, right? And then 2, top 3 things to recognize in yourself or another to help get into an organizational mindset. Like the poster behind you says, I don't know if anybody watching can read that, but it says perseverance. And perseverance is what?
I'm pretty sure it's backwards, but that is what it says.
No, it's correct. I can read it.
Oh, it's backwards for me.
I was like, I can read it. It says perseverance. But that particular poster really kind of speaks to the mindset that you have to have, not only as an entrepreneur, but as an operations guy. Like, full disclosure, I could not willingly do what you do and keep a smile on my face. I just couldn't do it. And you do it all day long. So I want you to touch on those.
So first of all, you wanted me to talk about Lead Carrot, and I talked about it a little bit, but they just give you so much automation power. It's insane, which we talked about cold outreach a little bit, but if you're an agency owner, a consultant, or anything like that, what Lead Carrot gives you the ability to do is literally go search by keywords, and it will scrape data from Google and LinkedIn and other places. And it will even tell you, is their site mobile friendly? Do they have pixels and things installed? Like, where are they active? Where are they not active? And then from there, you can pull them into your system and then trigger a sequence. Hey, this is Bryce with Funnel Driven ROI. I noticed that you don't have a mobile optimized website. 90% of the internet is on mobile. Do you want to talk about how to make that easy? Here's a document on why that's important. Let me know if you want to talk. Boom, you might get a call booked out of that. And then when they reply, you can move them to another step, trigger another sequence. It's that easy. And then once they've already engaged, once they opt into something, now you create a separate pipeline that is your inbound pipeline. Like I mentioned, that's your welcome series. It's attached to your different lead magnets. Once they book a call, it gets zapped into there. And then you can even create pipelines that communicate with each other and take it a whole step farther. So they just give you an insane amount of power. And then not to mention, like, a big issue that I have with different email systems is you have to share your server with all these other jackoffs that are spamming everybody. And then, but
you're telling me you don't want to be grouped in with the people that are just spam porning inboxes? That's not what you want to. That's not who you're trying to be with.
No, I would much rather use LeadCarrot, integrate my SendGrid account, and then have my own like little bubble of deliverability.
Oh, 100%. I'm going to kind of sidetrack for a second, but that's why, and you know this just as well. I was just looking over at one of the laptops because a message came in, but we get consistently asked, well, I'm using MailChimp or I'm using XYZ for email. And you know my response every time I hear MailChimp. Well, it works, but And those listening, if you're using MailChimp, okay, I highly advise that you get away from it. Not only does the user interface suck, but you're in that boat Trey was just talking about. You're sharing your server with other people that are utilizing that particular platform, and it can be detrimental to your deliverability. Will it work for short term? Yes. Is it the most affordable for short term? No. You can set up a SendGrid account for $15 and send like 10,000 emails. So if you're looking for the best case scenario, I highly recommend getting SendGrid set up. Trey, what are you doing over there? Did you have to sneeze, pick your nose? You just shut the camera off for 5 seconds? What's happening?
No, I got really, really bad acid reflux, and I didn't want to see y'all make y'all see me cringe. But since you want to call me out on it, that's fine.
It's real, raw, relevant content, my man. The audience expects it. So, sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to make sure that the audience listening was aware of that, because I've used MailChimp, but what? MailChimp's $25 to start, and then it's subscriber based. SendGrid's like, here's 10,000 emails. Give me $15. It's like the price of lunch. All right, get SendGrid. Highly recommend it. Okay, you continue now.
Awesome. And then another thing that it gives you the power to do is in one place, you can very easily set up the sequences, obviously once everything's integrated, to where when somebody opts into a lead magnet, if you collect their email address, name, and phone number, now you can send them emails. Now you can send them text messages, and you can send them voicemail drops. So if you're a coach, for example, and like you want to get people used to having you in their ear, you can put together a 10 or a 14-day challenge that's automated, that covers like your foundational things that you focus on. It provides them value, have them opt in, and then every day they get a voicemail from you. Now they're used to having you in their ear every day. Whenever those things stop coming, they're going to be like, oh, how do I keep hearing them?
I like it. And
I love LeadCarrot. It's just the power that they give you.
Ironically, I've never thought about using voicemail drops for that purpose. So we're going to talk a second ago. There we go. We're back. I don't know what just got paused. So we've got a blank space in there.
How big it is.
I don't know. Hopefully not long. We'll find out once this thing goes up. For those of you listening, if we just muted for a second and it just sounded like there was a weird break, this is what you get with real, raw, relevant content. I accidentally hit a button on the keyboard and it paused the recording. So we're just going to move past that like it didn't happen. Now, for everybody who's still here, who didn't think we just accidentally ended the podcast in the middle of it, I want to kind of change pace here for a second. I talk a lot in this show and on the Cereal Bowl about mindset, about overcoming obstacles, about thriving, not just surviving. Trey's got a unique story, and we're not going to kind of dive too far into that. We only have a few minutes, but one thing that I do want to ask from you, Trey, and it's mostly for the audience listening, is what would you say is your biggest takeaway from what you've gotten yourself to from who you were? Now, just to tease on this, you guys have heard me mention that we may be doing a program called From Plug to Profit. Trey is the partner in that program. And the reason I want him to talk about kind of the mindset and the perseverance that he has is because it's not only unique, but it's something that all of us have in common. Most people that are doing big things, helping others, making an impact, didn't just come from a silver spoon scenario. They fought and clawed, and Trey's no exception to this rule. So, Trey, if you don't mind being so kind, tell the audience a little about kind of where you started, say 10 years ago, to where you are now, and what's been kind of the motivating factor there, not only for you, but for the impact that you want to make to others.
So a few years ago, I really didn't think I was going to live to see 21. I was anxious, depressed. I was addicted to drugs. I was dealing drugs, and I really had no idea how I was going to get out of that lifestyle. And honestly, I like to say I got lucky, but the way that I understand the universe now, I know that's not true. The universe put me through what I needed to go through so that I could help people now. And then they put the people in front of me to get me out of it that needed to get me out of it. I know that that's how the universe works, but I like to say I got lucky, but that's not what happened. But I was in the worst place of my life, and one of my good friends, Kyler Gifford, came to me. And he said that he needed some help running some open houses. He needed some assistance. He was a realtor, by the way, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got to talking at some of the open houses, and he needed more help with his marketing. He wanted to get out to more people, and he didn't quite have the understanding on how to do that at the time. He's very good at it now, but and within a few months of working with Kyler, he had mentored me on the like the law of attraction and all that stuff like that, which is why I know now that it wasn't luck. But he mentored me on all those things, and I was able to become obsessed with marketing and secure him the first page of Google for the majority of the keywords we wanted. He started generating leads consistently just off of that organically. And he was actually able to become one of the top producers in his office. And the reason that I make this point is because of all of that, whenever he had his kid, he was able to kind of take his foot off the gas, enjoy those leads that were coming in from the Google listing,
Mm-hmm.
and be there for his wife and his kid in that early time period. And I realized, wow, I can really give people their time back if I set something up the right way, and I can really help people with this marketing thing. So I got obsessed with it. So the first thing, I was willing to take the mentor, and number two, I got obsessed with helping people. And then after that, I started looking for more mentors, figuring out what was next, because I knew marketing was what I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I was this drug dealer from the middle of nowhere. Who's gonna take me serious? So like I was like, okay, what do I do now? And like I was literally working with clients for like $250 to $500 a month, doing everything that I offer people now for $6,500 to $10,000 a month, which blows my mind to think about, because I would spend basically a full-time job working with people. And I learned a lot, and I got where I needed to be out of that, but I was still working for basically free. And eventually I found another mentor, and it was Lisa McClanahan, and she helped me organize my core values and that initial defining statement that I led with when you asked me who I am, which is I'm a crazy, passionate life changer that gives anyone and everyone the space they need to grow. That became my anchor statement, and that quickly became who I am. So I accepted the mentors, I focused on giving, and I got clear on who I was, and I just kept moving forward.
Perfect. Now, I want to touch on something just to wrap up here before I have you leave everybody how they can reach out to you, contact you if they need help with SOPs, organization. Maybe they just want to talk. Maybe they want to just get to know you. Whatever the case, I know you're up for chatting with them. But the one thing that I really want to kind of focus on, you and me both have very similar past stories. The only difference is you're in a town that's way smaller than where I'm at somehow. You're down in the middle of nowhere. Now, I'm also kind of in the middle of nowhere, but it's like widespread. But the one thing that really resonates with me, and I know resonates with a lot of people listening, is that your past doesn't define your future. You came from a past that by happenstance and choice, you kind of put yourself in, and as did I. But once you kind of see, this is going to sound weird. I'm not a religious man, but once you see the light and you're like, fuck, I can actually help people and get paid to do it, like that, it's a light switch. Like right away, you're like, you're telling me I don't have to struggle. I don't have to hurt people. I don't have to be selfish. I can actually make a difference. I can actually change somebody's life, actually help them feel good about what I do and get paid. And like, once that starts, like, you're right, you get addicted to it. So the one thing that I'm going to leave everybody with here on my point, and I'm going to have you just leave just how they can get a hold of you, what you do, what sites, social, whatever you want to leave them, is don't let your past determine your future. Okay. My mantra is you can thrive, not just survive, and consistency conquers complacency. Trey over here, I mean, there's a reason why his company's Virtually Limitless, why he's the core author of the Limitless Expansion Secrets. It's because limitless is possible. You just have to do it. Do the thing. All right, Trey, let's leave everybody with how can they contact you? Where can they reach you? And really just whatever you want to leave them with.
So the best ways to reach me are going to be through the Virtually Limitless podcast, the Virtually Limitless entrepreneur community, or if you go to www.treycarmichael.us, I actually have a free document that breaks down and like further documents the majority of what we covered and really a lot more that they can go grab for free. So it doesn't really matter which way you're which route you choose, you're gonna get enough value that's the equivalent of stuff that takes most people years and thousands of dollars to learn for free. Just pick a route.
I appreciate it. And I know everybody listening does too. We will definitely have to have you on the show another time. And if you want to join on the cereal bowl and just kind of bullshit, it's like a sit down and have whiskey type show. Let me know. We will get you on there. Everybody listening, go check it out too. I think you'll like it. And then make sure that you also follow the Virtually Limitless podcast by Trey himself. Tons of info, tons of value, tons of great guests and speakers. Once again, Trey, thank you for coming on. And this was another episode of The Inbound Secret.
This is the Inbound Secret.
My name is Bryce, and I'm your host for The Inbound Secret, where we're talking with top performers and health experts and sales badasses alike about their strategies to optimize their well-being and performance. Once again, this is The Inbound Secret, and let's get rocking and rolling.
This is the Inbound